Alright, so, after I got the epidural, like I said, I was able to get some sleep, and the day went by really fast, I gotta say. I didn't start pushing until 12:30, Saturday, no, 12 o'clock Saturday morning. So I had the whole day of being in the hospital. I started feeling the contractions again. I don't know what time it was, but I'm thinking it was maybe around 6, 7. I don't know. It's so fuzzy that whole day. But I remember that the epidural was wearing off. They came in and gave me another dose, and she told me that was it. They weren't going to be able to redose me at that point. I'm thinking, oh my God, I need to have this baby soon because I don't want to feel it. But I guess you can press that little button and give yourself another dose. And I was able to do that, but they weren't going to be able to come in and like redo the epidural. I'm not really sure. Anyway, I started feeling the contractions a little bit more consistently every couple of minutes. And they weren't as painful as they were earlier, but I could definitely feel them. So it wasn't, I went through all of that. Finally, at about 11:30, midnight, that night, I was 10 centimeters. And she said, let's try a couple practice pushes. So I did. I was scared about pushing, actually, because I didn't know what I was doing. You know, I don't know. You see it on TV, and I've watched all the baby stories and all of that, but they tell you how to push, and I was scared that I was going to go to the bathroom. I think that's a lot of women. A lot of women have that fear that because they tell you to push like you're having a bowel movement, and the last thing I want to do is have one with everybody there and the big spotlight on me, my husband there. I know it's the last thing you're thinking of, but it was still kind of in the back of my mind. And but they said you just gotta let that go, and you gotta push, and or you're not gonna get this baby out. So I did. I just had to let that go, let the put the embarrassment aside, and just start pushing. And I pushed for 2.5 hours, and of the entire day, and through all the labor that day, and all the pain that I felt with the contractions before the epidural, nothing was as bad as the pushing. The pushing for me was awful. I was so exhausted by that point. I had nothing to eat all day. I hadn't slept. And it took everything I had in me to push. You see the women on TV pushing, and it doesn't look like they're doing much. But you are, even if you're not screaming your head off, which at certain points I was. It was so painful. And, I can't go into the whole thing because, again, it's just something that's undescribable. Something that'll stay between me, my husband, and the nurses, and my doctor, of course. What went down in that delivery room within those 2.5 hours, because it wasn't pretty. And it was scary, and it was, I don't know, it was not something I've ever, there's nothing in my life that's ever come close to that before. So, anyway, I pushed and pushed and pushed, and they kept telling me, oh, she's coming down. They had Shane's come down and look at her head, and, of course, that gets me excited and makes you want to push a little bit more, just to get her out. But she just wasn't. Her head was not coming out. And I pushed as hard as I could, and they tell you to push for 10 seconds, and I don't even know if once I got to 10 seconds. It's so hard to hold that strong push for 10 seconds. Which after talking to a friend, she said that she couldn't either, so that made me feel a little bit better. So you gotta hold it. They kept telling me, you gotta hold it for the 10 seconds. So I just kept, they tried having me in a couple different positions, but she just wasn't coming out. She was coming down in the birth canal further, but she wasn't coming out, is just basically it. So it was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I had been pushing for 2 hours. Thought I was going to die. I'm a little dramatic, but I'm telling you, I thought I was going to die. Poor Shane's there with me the whole time. He hadn't slept. He hadn't really eaten. It's just total craziness in that room. And I'm, at certain points screaming and yelling and grunting and doing all those wonderful things. And she said, okay, I'm going to bring in the doctor because I use the midwife. So she was going to bring in the OB, take a look, and possibly have to try a vacuum to get her out, the vacuums that they sometimes have to use. She said, if this vacuum doesn't work, we're going to have to talk C-section. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I've been in labor for 26 hours, and now we're going to talk C-section? I could have had a C-section a day ago. So I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do that after putting in all that time. Although I would have, obviously, because I was so out of it at that point. It was, God, it was crazy. So, bring the doctor in. They hook up this, put the vacuum, the suction thing on her head. And, they tried it 3 times, possibly 4. 4 was their max. I remember at one point, I think after the second time, them telling me, if it doesn't work this next time, we're going to have to do a C-section or talk C-section. So she did it, and next thing I know, there's a baby here. And they rushed Savannah over to the little, baby table there, and they also rushed in the NICU team. And I'm still kind of out of it. I'm not knowing what's going on, and I don't hear her crying, but, I hear the nurses and everybody saying, oh, she's okay, she's okay. So I felt positive about it, but I'm just thinking, why is the NICU team in here? So they're over there for probably, 5 minutes, seemed like an eternity. Finally wrap her up and bring her over to me, and I get to look at her, and she's all wrapped up in this blanket, with her little hat on, and I hold her for just a minute, and Shane holds her for a minute, and I don't even know what was said exactly, but they said they had to take her, I guess they had to take her to the NICU. Because of the vacuum that they used, it left it skinned her head a little bit, and it left this huge swollen welt. At this point, I don't even know what's going on. I'm just like kind of going with it. And so the next thing I know, the doctor, they had to stitch me up. After, the whole delivery of the placenta, which was no big deal. That was quick and easy. To finally get all that taken care of, get the room cleaned up. My mom comes in. My mom, Savannah was finally born at 2:26 in the morning, Saturday morning. So my mom was the only one left. We had family and friends there who tried to make it through. I know they did, and it just got to be too late, and probably thought I was never going to have this baby. So my mom comes in, and looking back on it now, I just feel like why I was so calm that I just had this baby. I'm sitting up in the bed, and they brought me a little something to eat, and I just went through all of this, and I don't have a baby here with me, and I was okay with it. It was so weird. You'd think I'd be freaking out, like, where is my baby? Where is my baby? And I just being so out of it. And Shane wasn't there because he had went with the baby to the NICU. So he comes back and tells me that she's over there, and we talk a little bit, talk to my mom, get a little bite to eat, and go to sleep at 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't know what's going off in there. Coffee pot, maybe? Anyway, so we wake up the next morning at like 7:30. The nurse comes in. She wakes us up to ask Shane and I this question about when they took out the epidural catheter or something, and I'm just so out of it, and I don't know what she was asking me. So we got up the next morning, and we went down to see Savannah, and it was scary and amazing because I didn't really get to see her for about maybe a minute when she was born. And I went down there, and it was really hard to see her hooked up to all the machines, and not really be able to hold her or really even touch her because she was so little. She was 6 pounds, 12 ounces, and they just had all these wires and everything hooked up to her, and I'm looking at her head, and her head was so bad that day. It was awful. It was so, it was this huge bump here. and it was just, they had all this ointment on it, and it was bloody, and her hair was all matted, and it was really scary. And you just never think that, you know, that that's the way things are going to go. I knew about a vacuum possibly having to be used, but I never thought that, you know, you don't hear about it very often. I only read about it in the book. I've never actually knew anybody who had to use that. So, she was only in the actual, it's all the NICU, but they had moved her to progressive care, which is for babies who are in less serious condition, you know, bigger babies and babies who don't have a lot of major problems. So that was good. We thought we were going to get our baby, you know, that either that day or that next day, and she ended up being in there for 5 days. I had to leave the hospital without her, which as horrible as that labor was, that was the worst. Having to leave the hospital without her, it was awful. I didn't think I could do it. They had even talked about putting us in the Ronald McDonald House down the road. I guess if you have a baby who's in intensive care, they'll put you in the Ronald McDonald House, and it's free, and it's right down the road, so you can be close by for families who live far away. And I was actually considering it, but it didn't end up working out, and I'm kind of glad that I did end up going home and was able to get some rest and get even more prepared and get all the stuff from the hospital put away and taken care of. But we were without her for 3 days, and we went to the hospital every day and tried to make it to the feedings and everything, but it wasn't anything like leaving the hospital with her and, you know, having her home. It was awful. So we did get her that Wednesday at 8 o'clock at night. She was finally discharged to us. We had been there all day trying to get everything taken care of. Everything was fine with her head. By that point, the swelling had pretty much completely gone down. It looked so much better. The only issue she was having was her heart rate had dropped a couple times, and they say that if your baby's heart rate drops below 80, they have to monitor it. And they sent us home with a heart monitor. They had to bring in the heart monitor people and show us how to use it and train us on all that. And I'm like, oh my God, you gotta have her hooked up to this thing. You gotta carry the heart monitor around. It's in this little bag, and what a pain in the butt. I mean, obviously we wanted to do what was best for her, and if she was having troubles, we wanted to know about it. But now that it's a week and a half later, we're not really using it. We had it on her strict, 24/7 there for the first 5 days or so, and it never went off. So I think they were just being overly cautious, which is fine, but it's just not really realistic to take care of her with that thing on. So she's had 2 doctor's appointments, and since she's been home, and she's gaining weight, and her doctor's appointment last Thursday, she was 7 pounds 7 ounces, so she gained almost a whole pound. She's doing great. She's a good baby, although she can be very cranky when she's hungry. That's why I have a bottle very close by right now, if she were to wake up. Shane and I, we don't really have a routine down yet, but we're working on it, and I think that we're doing pretty well considering this is our first baby, and we work great as a team, and things are going well. So this is really long. It's probably going to take me like 2 days to download onto YouTube. So I better wrap it up. But I'm going to do another video, just kind of an update on how taking care of little Savannah is going. So we'll talk to you guys later. Bye.